Hi everyone, hope everyone is doing well. I think in today's video we are going to focus on the product management process itself. What does a product management process look like in terms of a customer facing challenge or just defining the steps that one could actually take to formulate uh, the areas that a product manager or a product team should focus on, right? So without getting into the overall process, what we are going to do is look at, I think, the different steps that are involved uh, in the PM journey, initiated right from the identification of the problem itself, and then we will take it one by one with examples of how that how those steps actually transform into the overall product management process itself. So the area that we are going to discuss today will be about identification of or the discovery of problems. It's essentially comprised of uh, identifying what I would like to call as the customer needs. You should be able to basically be able to identify what the needs of the customer are by maybe doing user research, or whether your data tells it, or maybe there is an explicit demand for it, right? So identification of the needs is like one of the most important aspects uh, of the discovery phases. Um from the needs, basically what you try to drill down to is identification of a problem area or multiple problem areas, right? And then the problem areas can arise out of the lot of pain that the customer faces in using either your product or a feature or a capability that you are about to develop, right? Your problem area should be able to take that into consideration, or it is probably like a business requirement that has come to you you know after, like, going through this step, right? So in the customer needs step, you basically did a user research, had a lot of surveys floated around trying to identify what kind of functionality would your customers need. So maybe the outcome of that is linked to drilling down on a problem area or problem areas, right? uh, I think taking this further, like, once you have used this to identify this, what is it that you should actually care about? You should definitely make this problem not about the problem of the business, or a problem that is just going to be solved because it is lying around with your engineering team or a design team, but your problem should actually tie to a customer outcome, without which it is going to be very difficult to deliver something valuable. So what do I mean by linking it to the customer outcome? Essentially, when you're looking at problem areas, you could have a lot of areas that need attention, but as a product manager, the most, I would say, useful skill that you could develop would be identifying and linking, I think, those areas to the short term customer outcomes, long term customer outcomes, and what I like to call as don't care outcomes, right? So it's kind of a prioritization, a mini prioritization framework that could really help you you know kind of come to what to focus on immediately versus in the next 6 months. You can define it in whatever way, but I'm just trying to give you inputs on how do you relate the problem area to the customer outcome. And then every business basically cares about KPIs. Your product would fail on its head, or any feature would fail on its head if there is no KPI related to it, right? So uh, you can define those KPIs at the start of this phase itself, uh, not exactly into detail, but you should know the areas, right? So for example, you could say that I am going to link this problem area to maybe a direct revenue metrics, or I'm going to link it to customer churn or retention, or maybe I'm going to link it to usage, right? So essentially what you're saying is that my problem area is going to benefit some business KPI. What is that business KPI? Of course, you can take inputs from multiple teams, and come to a conclusion. But be very careful that if this is not defined in the initial stages, then as and when you progress further into this product management, I would say process of identifying, discovering problem areas, these matrices or these KPIs will be lost. If they are not discussed upfront, there is a very good possibility that they'll never be discussed again, right? So I think this basically gives you good understanding of how do you set up a process, to identify or discover problems. I'm going to take an example, of a digital product, easier to understand. Maybe most of us have used it, but I'm going to drill down with the same framework that I described here, and help you formulate some some aspects of the product management process, or actually the discovery of problem, as we are focusing on that. So looking at, I think, Google Photos, right? So if I am basically going to be talking about customer needs, right? So you could you could think of customer needs as someone like you, me, or your friends and families trying to you know basically give a structure to the photos that they have, like photos that they regularly click. And so this is going back to a time when maybe Google Photos were not developed. So you, as a product manager for Google Photos, what is it that you need to be concerned about as far as customer needs are concerned? Maybe obviously you could go back to this step, where you're trying to identify the areas to focus on. How did you arrive at those areas? There are these obviously methods. Maybe the user research indicated the need of such a product. Maybe the data is telling you that the lot of the photos that are sitting on the devices are being transferred back and forth across different devices. So hence there is need. So I'm just saying, like, for the purposes of this particular ask, like, what is it that you would want to focus on as far as needs are concerned, right? So if you were to, like, give it a structure, right? So essentially what you are trying to create, if let's say photos was not existing, photos is the outcome of your discovery process. So what is it that you're trying to focus on as far as needs are concerned? You are basically trying to maybe do a storage and sharing of the various photographs that are there on your phone, right? Maybe you are also trying to organize it. Maybe you are trying to give it the functionality of accessing it anywhere, anytime, uh, and maybe some secondary demands, or like or maybe data that is telling you that if I could also use maybe some sort of enhancements in form of filters, predefined filters, enhancements, and then some tags or hashtags, right? So these, I would say, probably D and E, you can think of it as a more um, coming out of the explicit demands. Accessing, I think, probably might be discovered through data. And then I think these are like straightforward, like that, you rolled out surveys, and then, your customer says that they need, a method or mechanism to, like, share and store photos and, like, be able to organize them, right? So, uh, you, you hopefully are with me till this point and are able to understand the essence of this step, right? Now, what I'm going to do is relate these to, the problem areas. Where do problem areas actually come from, right? So how do you actually identify? So actually, when you start doing product management, you'll realize that once you are, like, you know maybe like in the initial, let's say 30 days or 45 days of identifying your needs, you'll start to see, like, I think, a lot of pain points, as the PMs like to call it, or, like, the uh, pain points. Yeah, exactly. So you probably will see um, pain points coming through, your customer needs, uh, that that are there, but your role as a PM is to basically identify them and give them a structure, right? So maybe the customers tell you that, or the data tells you that there is no collection of photos at one place. There is there's no way to show my friends and family the photos that I have, at their own convenient time, right? They they tell you basically, as in your customer tell you that they have to carry devices to transfer and access, right? And then they need to have a separate app to like maybe do the enhancements on the photos, and a more uh, uh, even deeper problem after these have been identified is like you can't identify places and people in the photographs, right? So the structure is essentially telling you that there are a lot of problems that your customers have, that are linked to the needs of the customer. uh, what is the way to identify um, such such problems? uh, Again, like you could go back and look at these needs, and then pick up maybe one by one, and then like for example, storage and sharing, you could say that what are some of the problem or the pain points related to storage, right? So storage is essentially like, okay, I don't have storage in a singular device. Like if I store, and I'm talking, consider this as a time when photos were not developed. Like I'm not talking of a time right now where you're already sharing pictures on cloud, and your family members, everyone can be typed. Think of a time when these facilities were not available, and you had to store it. You had to store your photos, you had to share your photos that you had clicked, right? So this is, why is this a problem area? This is a problem area because the customer is not able to experience, I would say, seamless, or I would say without too much of fuss and experience, on the device, right? So, or maybe the customer is taking too much of time, to do the storage and sharing, right? So you can tie this to metrics and see if you want to make it more data intensive, but you get the point, right? I mean, you understand that the needs basically can help you identify the problem areas, right? So um, once you've identified the problem areas, you need to be basically able to identify it to customer outcomes, like how is the customer going to benefit if you solve that particular pain point, right? So again, this is sort of like, I would say, a prioritization framework that can help you essentially prioritize the pain points that you would want to solve, for. So every PM is constrained by the time. It's not like a PM has a whole lot of time, and you can solve as many problems. You'll have problems, and then you'll be given time, and then you basically, if you link it back to our first chapter, which was essentially around what are the teams that it interacts with. So every team has like limited resources, right? So you need to be able to prioritize it, the problem areas and the customer needs. And I would say like short term, like if you're looking at short term, for example, you could say that I'm looking to develop capabilities on storage, sharing, and accessibility. In the long term, I would want to have enhancements and tags and hashtags, right? This gives you maybe like some objectives to work on. And then you could say that I don't really care about a separate app experience right now. Like it's fine if it goes through the Google app itself. I don't want a separate photos app. I don't also care about what happens with videos, and I'm not worried too much about the folder structure or like the organization of photos, so on and so forth, right? So this basically can help you with some level of prioritization, right? And now coming to the most important part is KPI. Like why do we care about solving customer problems, or why do we generally care about understanding customer needs, right? In essence, like you should be able to tie it to KPIs. If you're not able to tie it to KPIs, then there is a good amount of possibility that the problem area that you're working on will not get traction within different functions in the organization. So, for example, what is the one or like two KPIs that your management could look and say, okay, wow, this looks like uh, metrics that I would like to track when, for example, this problem area is solved, right? So you could look at, like, maybe for example, minutes spent, right? You could look at, let's talk of maybe one area, right? For now, I think I'm just focusing on, let's say, Google uh, Photos engagement. There could be, since this, I'm assuming that this product is not developed. So if you remember our product development curve, right? I mean, let's say we are at this stage right now. We are just developing photos, for example. We are not at this stage, and we are definitely not at this stage. We are seeing a decline, right? So, what kind of matrices are important? Engagement becomes really important in this case, because you are launching a new product. You're planning to launch a new product. You want to have as much as customer engagement, or even before that, customer acquisition, right? So, I'm assuming that a larger part of Google, has a lot of customers, like, your Google search, and you have the customers who basically want to create a valuable product. So I'm not worried about the customer acquisitions. What I want through this product is that I want to have an engagement, right? So what matrices would I track? I'll probably track minutes spent on this newly developed capability. I'm going to look at maybe the number of users that are active daily, weekly, and monthly. Most importantly, the purpose of the product was to see, like, how are photos being shared, or, like, whether you started clicking maybe more photos, right? So number of photos uploaded, for example, and then maybe the like, a secondary or like tertiary matrices that you could look at is number of devices per user, that users uses to access photos, right? So the whole point of, I think, KPIs is to tie these pain points, right, uh, to something that the business can actually, be able to measure, and then say that, okay, if I look at, for example, this problem area, not able to collect photos at one place, which metrics would be able to uh, basically, you know, able to help me with this? I'll leave it for you. Please answer it, in the comments below. But I can, for an example, I can, tell you that if you were to look at a metrics for not able to show it to my friends and families, which metrics, would you be able to track? You would be able to use, obviously, number of users active, right? So when you are sharing photos more with your family and friend also become active, and then that would lead to a number of users that are active on a daily or a weekly basis, right? So if I'm solving this pain point, which is need to be able to show to my friends, it has a direct impact on number of users that are active. So I think this video was useful to get you the concepts related to discovery of problem. It's a very crucial step as part of the product management process is concerned. In the next or subsequent videos, I'll try to identify the next steps and help you understand, giving more structure, more prioritization, uh, helping the user side of the helping the user side, with um, uh, giving you inputs in identification, or maybe, like, fine tuning the problem. So we'll continue these discussions, and we'll try to cover it in probably next 3 to 4 I would say videos. Hope you like this content. If you have, please like and subscribe.